Sound design.
So how do you get started with Soundvision? So I'm definitely not an expert, but I wanted to record some of the things that I've learned just getting started with Soundvision in the last 48 hours. I finally had to use it on a show. And so I looked on YouTube. I didn't find any videos about getting started. So this video definitely won't answer all your questions, but I hope it will help you take the first steps if you were in the same position I was 48 hours looking for videos and not finding any. So you install Soundvision, you open it up, and it looks like this. There's nothing here. I already did some test things over here, but normally those aren't here yet. Now in other drawing programs, I'm used to like selecting a tool and then you just draw directly onto the prediction or modeling environment here. But in Soundvision, you put all of those things in manually and then you just view the results here. So you don't actually manipulate the design here. So I think when you open it up, it first looks like this default layout. Actually, it should look like this. I didn't use this profile cut view. You don't need that for really basic design. So minimum, you need just an audience and a source, right? So I would jump, if you are in that situation, I would jump directly to this layout, system plus venue. So now you can put in your audience and your source. So let me unhide this stuff. And this is pretty easy. You just click new surface and then it'll put some points in here for you. It'll start with 3 points. I needed 4 points to do a rectangle. There may be another way to do it, but that's my understanding. So yeah, this is pretty simple. If you want to do a symmetrical audience, symmetrical system, as we often do, then you probably want to start, to the left and work your way to the right like I did. So this first point is right over here, -40, and a y of 10 and a z of 0. So you put in 0 because then later on you put in the audience listening level up here in the right, and it'll do that for you. So I can show you here, if I put in 0, it would go away. Change this back to 5.1. Okay, so I've got my audience in, then I just need to put my source. So I'll unhide this, and that draws my source in here. So if you have not manipulated a 3D design before, looks like they're all pretty similar. You can zoom in and out with 2 fingers on the trackpad or with the scroll wheel on your mouse. You can pan around with the left mouse button, and then you can actually move the view here with the right mouse button. Okay, so all I did here was similar process. I hit new source, and then I put in the X, Y, and Z data, number of motors, and then number of enclosures. So in this case, the design I was working on, I thought was going to have 2 motors, and then we got in the field and turned out that we were using some crank lifts and it was only going to be 1 point, so I put in 1 motor. Starting with 2 motors though, you'll see now you have these auto solver tools available to you. So with 1 motor, you don't have these auto solver tools, but with 2 motors you do. So I'll show you those. Yeah, so 9 enclosures. You want to put in the height. So let's say that this is something like 25. And then to get the symmetrical element to show up, I just had to right click on this guy, symmetry, mirror to ZY, and then he showed up. Okay, so once you have those 2 things in place, then you can go over to the 2D source and now start working on your aim and splice. So nothing shows up over here till you click on the source, and then you can auto scale these things here. And then you can either, I think sometimes you can grab these and move them around, or you might just have to adjust it here or here. So I'll adjust this to -15. And then I've noticed that Soundvision does not like an overshoot, at least not in these auto solvers. So for example, if I set this to -13, because I want these top boxes to overshoot and I want this box here to be the on axis of like that top zone, then if I do this first auto solver, then it does this weird thing where it puts a big splay here, 4 degrees in between this first and second box. So you either fix that manually or you adjust this down to a point where it's not going to do that. So it's still doing that. There we go. So now these splay angles kind of make sense. This just does the mechanical splay between the boxes so that the angle now created by all of these splay angles matches the target coverage angle of this audience. Next thing you want to do is make sure that these points are in the place where you want them. So for me, this would be vertical bottom, on axis, vertical top. And then you want to make sure that this matches what you want. So I think it started out as something like plus 0.7 and minus 0.7. And I changed it to 2 and negative 2. I would go as high as 3 and negative 3. I think that just makes everything a little bit easier if you allow, as much as a 60 dB front to back ratio for the frequency response. And then I changed this over here as well. So I think it started out as 12, but I'm working on a speech only event that has like one music cue. So 99% speech, I just need it to be really flat and clear. I don't need any kind of enhancement. So I changed this to 6. And I think that worked out pretty well. So then I hit the optimize button, and that makes, it's trying some different things, and it makes some changes here to the splay to try to increase these numbers. I didn't look at this number ahead of time, but this is giving you an idea of how well you're doing. And I can't explain it much more beyond that, but you want these to be above 90 for both target and integrity. Okay, so you notice that I have temperature and humidity here. So I don't know how to change that, except back in this first view, you click on this, and then under calculation, temperature, and hygrometry. Back in this view now, I'll head over to electronic settings, make sure I have the right amp selected and number of boxes per amp channel. Normally this would be on maximum, but I had enough amps that I could change this to 2. And then I just press this FIR button. It makes some adjustments here. If you hover over these, you can see what it's doing. These are turned down a little bit. These are turned up a little bit in relation here. And hopefully these numbers went up. Again, I forgot to look at what they were before, but now 99% is really high. So this is looking good. So now I can just save this, and then over in LA Network Manager, I can just load that file, and it's great. It comes up with all the correct groups. And now when I get to the setup portion, I can just click on each amp, make sure that it has the right IP address, and make sure that the preset versions match. Otherwise, if they don't, in my case, they didn't at first, so I had to reload the correct preset here to make sure that it had the right preset version. That all updated, and that worked well. And then I went to the tuning portion. Here is the final result that I got, and I was really happy. I think the only thing that I did, here's where I started. The only thing that I did was insert a filter here because I didn't like the sound of this or the way it measured. I added some subs, and that's it. I think that's the only change that I made. Granted, I was only measuring at like a 40-foot depth or something like that. And I was impressed at how closely this measurement matched the prediction in Soundvision. Now, of course, once we got into the field, a lot of things changed, but it was pretty easy to just go back into Soundvision, make the changes I needed to make. Like, I think this changed a little bit, so then I had to, change this a little bit, something like that. And then I just went through the steps again. Auto splay, optimize, make any manual changes that I need to, and then click this FIR button again. Save it, open it up in LA Network Manager, and that was it. So those are just some of the first steps to get started with L-Acoustics Soundvision. Like I said, I'm a beginner, so if you see me making any mistakes or you have any suggestions for me, let me know in the comments below this video. Thanks.
Sound design.